that they've got all these special interest groups that go to the Watts Neighborhood Council meeting. There's no room for the community overall. When they get there, they're either standing up or out in the hall. They don't get to speak, they don't get to hear anything. So it's got to be greater than the Watts Gang Task Force, because everybody ain't in the game. And they don't want their kids or their families involved with gangs. So we need to get away from that.
Cut back to thought. Thanks for spending your Saturday, Michael. Since you raised funding, I have two questions regarding funding, maybe perhaps opportunities for the planning department. One is CRAs. For example, in Northeast Los Angeles, the city council just put in for $4 million of funding for a, quote, feasibility study to the land they've already warehoused. Why shouldn't you guys get a piece of that so that when they go do it to our community, at least you have some input before they plan us under? And I'm serious. I mean, it's city money, you know.
Yeah, no, that's
okay.
a great point.
Okay.
We'll look into that.
The second piece of that has to do with the Department of Transportation. We discovered recently that they got a few $1 million to go play with San Fernando Road in Northeast Los Angeles, and they didn't talk to the planning department. And as far as I know, they have not talked to the planning department. If they're going to take a few $1 million and go plow us under, again, why shouldn't the planning department get a piece of it and at least have input before they go destroy all of the stuff you guys are trying to do?
Those are great points. And one of the things I talked to the mayor about himself was bringing planning back to the planning department. We have it in DOT, and we have it in CRA. It's going on, even to some extent, a little bit at the housing department. And so we've talked about bringing that basically home to one spot, so if there's any planning going on, it's coming through us. And in the short term, making sure that all their initiatives are going through us. So we have monthly meetings with DOT, so I'll actually raise the San Fernando Road issue with them. But we have great colleagues like Jay Kim over there who we work with a lot, but it's a matter of them talking to their staff and saying, this isn't really something that's our core issue, but it is for the planning department, so why is it housed with us? And it usually is where the money's coming from.
Well, maybe you can get some
and maybe,
money, yeah.
Exactly, let's transfer that to our department. I'd be a big fan of that. It might not be popular, but that's okay. I don't have to do a vote.
David, you heading for the mic?
I do, thank you. Thanks for being here.
That's good.
I appreciate your comment about transportation being an integral part of planning and land use, and also your comment about investing in the future. And when the neighborhood councils 5 years ago were at USC as part of the public policy development, one of the things they advised us was it's a good idea to try and understand how we can help you so that you can help us. And in that spirit, as we go through this upcoming budget crisis, the ongoing budget crisis, it would help us if we knew how to advocate on your behalf so that we can get what we want from city planning. And we've had long discussions about charter departments being the foundation of the city as opposed to ordinance departments, and how we need to invest in the departments that can get us where we need to go. Also, we are kind of connected to a lot of the regional planning, transportation planning issues, or organizations like the Metrolink, or the high-speed rail. And so often there are opportunities for us to be of service if we could advocate on your behalf, but we don't know sometimes until it's too late. Once projects are funded, like Sepulveda Reversible, San Fernando, they're just runaway trains that we have. We're all helpless as we watch them go, yet they're disconnected with what we really want to do in the community. So we want to advocate on your behalf, and we'd love your help knowing how we can do that.
Great, Steve, and I'd be happy to let Lynn know as we go through the budget process. I'm putting together right now with my staff. Normally we don't start till around December putting our budgets together. I started in September. Being that I've been in the department 13 years, I've been through many budget cycles, I can see when we're successful and when we're not. The times we're successful is when we have people like you coming down to City Hall and saying, planning is important to us. We want to see the next 30 years of the future of Los Angeles shaped by the planning department, working with us, getting our voices heard, and basically putting plans out there that preserve the character of neighborhoods. And when new development does come in, it's not planning project by project, but it's systematically thought through. And when the council members realize there's a voice for that, and that it's something that their constituents want, they respond. When it's the Chamber of Commerce coming down there and asking for it, they kind of, okay, maybe we'll listen to them, maybe we won't. We know they're going to support us anyway. But when it's pure neighborhood, grassroots concerns, they do listen. So I'd be happy to work with Lan on making sure we have their information.
situation at Corporate Point that they wanted to come in and develop that, put a 7-story building on a place that there's no other building other than West Hills Hospital that is more than 3 stories. And they wanted to put in a 7-story building. And we had 1,400 we had a petition with 1,400 signatures in the neighborhood against it. We met with all the zoning commissions, the planning commissions, everybody, and then Greg Smith, as the city council, turned around, endorsed the project, and it went through. Thank God the recession hit, and now the developers have moved on. So, you know, all the work that we did, and then the city councilman turns around and says, no, this is what I want, and that's what got passed. So how do you fight that?
Right.
It's really,
10
words or less.
yeah, I'm not familiar with that specific project, but it's really, you have to look at what is it the project's asking for. Is it that everything's 3 stories but it's allowed to go to 7 in that area, and they needed some exceptions to get there? Was it allowed to go to 5 and they wanted 7? So what was the baseline of your current plan?
Oh, they wanted 10 stories,
I see.
and they conceded on 7.
But I guess my question would be more, what were they allowed to do as a matter of right? What did the community plan, the general plan allow for that area? One of the problems we have is when a project comes in, we see it mostly on our commercial corridors where you may have R3 zoning, which is a pretty high density multifamily zone, and behind it you have single family. And so many times there's a single family house on that multifamily zone. That house gets torn down, boom, here comes a condo or an apartment project, 4 stories, you know, very massive, overshadowing what's a single family home in the rear. We're going through and doing some step backs and requirements to help that situation, but because of our old zoning patterns in LA, it's really important as we go through your community with a community plan update to look at what are those areas that are currently, you think that they're zoned for a certain height level, a certain density, but you don't really realize what the underlying zoning does allow for. And so making sure that we address those areas systematically before the next wave comes through of projects that in many cases can even happen without a public hearing because they're by right, and something a lot larger than what you would expect can get built because the current plan would actually allow for it.
Well, unfortunately, West Hills is in a unique situation in that we don't have our own community plan. We are part of Chatsworth's community plan, we are part of Canoga Park's community plan, and we are part of Woodland Hills community plan. We are not West Hills community plan. And you know, they can come in from a different area and say,
Be happy to have my valley planners work with you on that and take a look at, you know, the size. I know West Hills is, everyone thinks of it as its own community, so there is a good discussion to have there.
yes.
Michael, may I ask you a question?
Sure can.
Tarzan has got a wonderful development going. The design studio helped us. My question is, I think you've got 1 person in the design studio. Are you going to try and increase somehow back up to perhaps 2? Because we ended up with grants, we ended up with studies, and the help that the planning department gave us in connecting with UCLA and places like that was utterly invaluable. How can we continue that process? How can we get more of it generated? Because 1 person's not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Luckily, my 1 person has a great relationship with the university, so we have about 15 interns working with our urban design studio. The hard part about the urban design studio is it's completely general funded. So when I look to move staff there, it's difficult because it's either they're working on a community plan update, they're working on another general funded activity, a code amendment, for example, and that competes with our urban design studio. We've been working with the American Association of Architects, AIA, American Institute of Architects, I'm getting their acronym wrong.